Okay, you're just going to stand there? All right, it's pretty interesting. All right. I, first off, am so honored to be here today. Speaking of Judge Sylvester, he's our judge, we like to call him. He did our adoption. And just so many people in this room that are here who speak for these kids and care about these kids. Anthony was in foster care for 2 years, from just after he turned 4 till just after he turned 6. And the first 4 months he was in, he got to be with his little brother. When he moved to his 5th home, they were separated. And I asked Anthony yesterday what that felt like. Do you want to say? He said, Mom, it felt sad, very sad. I was scared. I was mad. Anthony was in the desperate need of an advocate at this point. He was angry, he was confused, he was little, and he didn't know what was coming next. So, Jamie was assigned to Anthony's case after he'd been in this home for 6 months, and she went over to meet him in December 2010. Before Jamie even entered the home, she just had a bad feeling. And once she met Anthony, those layers of concern just began to unfold. He was visibly afraid of his foster mother. He was underweight, and he didn't know that it was his 5th birthday. These red flags in the next few weeks began to continue unfolding as she got to know Anthony and fall in love with his contagious smile and start to learn how to decode his constant chatter. And Christmas was coming up, and she's leaving town and couldn't bear the thought of leaving while Anthony was still in his home. CASAs have one case. They sometimes have the ability, the time, the energy to see things, to notice things, to put the time and energy into changing things that maybe an overworked caseworker wouldn't be able to do. We love caseworkers. We have friends who are caseworkers. His caseworker is one of our good friends now, but sometimes the kids just need a buddy and not a caseworker. So Jamie worked to get Anthony into a new home. And since he's lived with us, he's told us quite a few stories about living in the home that Jamie met him in. And they're stories that I'm not going to tell today, but that invoked an anger in me I had never felt before, which is saying a lot, because you asked my husband or my brother, I have a little bit of anger from me. But this was a whole new level of just a woman, a couple who took the sacred job of caring for a hurting child and just abused it. There are incredible, wonderful, beautiful, selfless foster homes, many that we know, and thanks to Jamie, Anthony's CASA, he got to spend the next year in one of those. So, across town, in December 2010, my husband and I were deciding we would start a family, which of course means we have babies. And we always knew we would adopt. It's always been a part of our life. It's always been something that our faith has compelled us to be a part of. But we thought maybe down the road. We were on track to sell everything we owned and move to Central America and this whole other path. And then I volunteered at an adoption exchange event and talked to the wonderful people there. And then I looked on the Heart Gallery online. And then I started sending random children's pictures to Julie at work. And the confusion set in pretty quickly that maybe we weren't going down the path that we had thought. So it was December 2010 that we decided we were going to adopt a little boy who was waiting for a family, which was a complete 180 for me. I was going to get pregnant, have a baby girl, and put ridiculously huge hair bows on my head, and tutus, and tights, and leggings, and all of that. And then we started looking at little faces, and I started thinking, well, maybe I could coordinate T-ball snacks, and I could play catch, and I could use Legos to ninja fighting. I could do this. I could do that. So we knew at that point that we were going to adopt a little boy and that he was already out there. We didn't know who he was. We didn't know how curly his hair would be or how much he'd make us laugh. But we knew he was out there, and we started praying just every night that he would be in a safe place, that he would be loved. Somebody was listening to his stories. Somebody was tucking him in at night. And just loving him. He was out there. He was out there somewhere, and he was waiting. And we would pray that God would just whisper into his ears. He fell asleep that his mommy and daddy were coming, that he wasn't going to be lonely. He didn't have to be scared. That we were getting there as fast as we could, which I'm an extremist, so we really did get there as fast as we could. And I just put together the timing of this when I was getting ready to speak a few weeks ago, that it was December 2010 that Jamie met Anthony, and that it was December 2010 we started praying our best prayers that our boy would be safe, and that somebody was watching out for him. And that was probably the most difficult season of my life. August 17th, we knew that this little boy right here was going to be ours. We waited until November 11th for his team to catch up with that realization. Tracy's here somewhere. 9 weeks we waited from the time they met us. No, but with that, they were very protective of him, and they cared about him a lot, which I wouldn't trade that for anything. But on our end, it was a love mate. And then we waited until December 28th night to meet him. And those of you who are parents in this room, you know the worst feeling in the world is when your kid is sad or alone or hurting and you can't get to them. You can't help them. You can't hold them. You can't protect them. And since August, I was already his mom. But I didn't get the chance until January to really become that. And I tell Jamie all the time that I am in the biggest debt to her, because before I could get to him, she was there. And she was fighting for him. And she was creating fun memories, and she was listening to him, and she was getting to know him. And Jamie was the only person that stayed the same for him. He had different caseworkers. He had different kids on the top bunk. He had different teachers. He had different homes. He had different doctors. He had different therapists. Nobody stuck around. And then Jamie came in, and she listened to him. She was nice to him. She was funny. I'm quoting here. Right? And he said it was really good. And when Jamie walked into his house, Anthony didn't know what a CASA was. He didn't know what it took to train and encourage and collect CASAs. He didn't know any of that. He just knew that someone showed up. Probably with a gift, probably with presents, right? Yeah. And she listened, and she cared, and she loved him, and she stayed. She stuck around. And I hate to think about what the next year and a half would have been like for Anthony if he would have stayed at home. Anyone who knows him, or some of you can see now, he is full of life and laughter and love and chatter and imagination. And I'm just so eternally thankful that CASA was there and Jamie was there to just come scoop him out at home and kind of patch up his broken spirit from living there and just love him in the way that any mom wants her kid to be loved. So, probably left some things out because he's a little bit distracting, but so I just want you guys to think about a child in your life, your son, your daughter, your grandchild, your niece, your nephew, the little kid that lives next door, and think about if all of a sudden you were gone and that child didn't have anyone like you who was going to fight for them, who was going to love them, who was going to make sure they were taken care of. And that's the reality for a lot of kids in our neighborhoods, in our schools, in our counties. And now think about if each and every one of them had a Jamie. And that's possible with what you guys are doing here. That each kid has a Jamie. And so I want to leave you guys with this quote by Margaret Mead, who I'm still not sure who she is, and I just shared this with you. I said I was going to Google it, but I didn't. But before that, and Judge Sylvester sort of already did this, but if you're a CASA, or you're a GAL, or you're a caseworker, or you're a foster parent, or a judge, if you're someone here who is a voice for these kids, I just want you to stand up as I read this quote. Don't be shy. Come on. And while you guys stay standing, I want to leave you with this. Margaret Mead said, "Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful and committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing